Welcome to the Worcester Public Library's science fiction collection. My name is Jessica. I actually buy the science fiction fantasy collection. There's a little mix of horror in here too. Devin and Erin from Facebook Live asked me to do a science fiction book recommendation, so I'm going to tell you about my favorite science fiction novel and the novel that got my dad into reading. So, here it is. It's Red Rising. It is a wonderful YA crossover into adult science fiction novel. It is a little bit older. I believe the publishing date is 2015, but the newest installment of this series just came out in July of 2019, and it's still going fairly strong. Who knows if it'll continue. One of the really cool things about this book is if you've read Ender's Game or Hunger Games, it's kind of a crossover into the science fiction realm with that same kind of backstory. So Red Rising is a novel set in space. It is primarily starts off in Mars, but goes across the universe. The focus character is Darrow. He is a red, or the bottom of the class system that they have on Mars. And basically he is stuck digging in the tunnels of Mars in hopes that he can hopefully make Mars an inhabitable planet for the future generations. Unfortunately, he finds out really fast that he has spent his life and his grandparents' lives and the lives of generations before him preparing for a world that already exists. So the Reds are being sheltered and kind of told that there's no habitation on Mars, but all this time people have been living there in their high-rises and their fancy, awesome houses, and he decides that he's going to rise up and make something of himself. So it's a story of vengeance, a little bit of warfare, and a lot of deceit, because in order to rise up and be the change, he actually has to become someone from a higher class, and the highest class in this book is a gold, and they believe themselves to be godlike. So he actually has to pretend to be a god in order to get where he needs to get and kind of change the universe and change the hierarchy and change the system. So very similar to Hunger Games, but set in space. Highly recommend it. My dad loved it, and now he's reading all sorts of science fiction novels. Okay. So the other book that I have that I can recommend is How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse. Definitely a girl power science fiction flick. I don't know if you can see that. It's almost a perfect blend for lovers of both genres of fantasy and science fiction. There's a theme here. I love a little bit of both. There are kings and there's queens, as in most fantasy novels, but it is set in space, hence the multiverse. Also, the kingdom has not seen a girl born to the royal line of this family in over 200 years. So Rory, being the firstborn in her family, you would think she would become queen. Well, that's just not what happens. So guess again. She's actually forced to marry for an alliance and cheated of her inheritance. So if she got the throne, the story would be boring, you know, happily ever after. Obviously there has to be a little drama, plot twists, all that fun stuff. So the story is about betrayal, lots of intrigue, and the novel is kind of a mashup of like Sleeping Beauty with the fairies included, Princess Bride, and a touch of Princess Leia, so a little Star Wars hint in here. And of course it's set in the science fiction realm of space. It's a must-read for people that really enjoy science fiction and fantasy, but maybe might not want to do a genre blend. So this is kind of a little bit of the best of both worlds. I am more of a fantasy aspect lover, but this was really good, so I highly recommend this as well. And that's it.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome.